Hi everyone, welcome back to another product review video. So today, as you can probably tell by the intro, we're going to be looking at the BLK2FLY. It's an interesting bit of kit, so it's a drone mounted scanner. It's got some really interesting tech from what I've read, sort of mounted in it. And something that as a business we're seriously looking at. So the site we're going to go to is a nice gastro pub around the corner. It's an old watermill that's been converted, so a lot of detail on the elevations and sort of ins and outs on the roof, so areas that would be tricky for a sort of tripod mounted scanner. So let's hit the road. We'll pop around the corner, meet Chris and Harry from Leica. They can run through, tell us give us a bit more insight into the kit, and then we'll see it flying, and then we'll have a look at the data. And we're also going to take down our BLK2Go, so we can do a little bit of a comparison between what's achievable with a similar scanner from ground level and what we can achieve from flying. So yeah, let's jump in the car and we'll go meet up with them. Hi Chris, thanks for coming down with the BLK2FLY. Can you just give us a bit of insight into what it is, what it does, what technologies in the device?
Yeah, so this is our autonomous flying laser scanner, the BLK2FLY.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of different sensors in it. So it's using what we call sensor fusion. So it's taking data from a lot of those sensors to understand its environment and then map it autonomously. So you can see it folds down nicely.
Yeah.
We've got a full dome LiDAR scanner in the front. We've got a panoramic camera system, so the cameras are mounted around the chassis on the top and at the bottom. We've got RTK, GNSS.
Okay.
And we've also got radar, which is used for obstacle avoidance.
Okay.
So the autonomy is key for being able to concentrate on capturing data on site rather than actually concentrating on keeping the thing in the air and avoiding obstacles yourself. So you'll find that there's a 3.5 meter bubble of obstacle avoidance around the drone, and then you can basically just set it to map an area. It will sense into its environment, understand what it's sensing, and then it will adjust its autonomous mission plan based on the obstacles that it finds.
Okay, so it's very much, you set an area for it to fly and almost leave it to do its own thing?
Yeah, that's right. It takes as much as it can safely from the operator in terms of having the thing flying around in the air. So it's a case, set an area for it to map. It'll work out how to go and do it, and then it will go and do that.
Yeah.
It's worth saying that you still have full manual control should you need to take over. As soon as you touch the manual controls, it gives you that flight control back.
Okay, that's perfect. So the obstacle avoidance, you say it's got a 3 meter bubble. So the site that we're on today, we've got trees, we've got a few sort of wires and stuff like that. So it will detect those and keep itself away from that?
Yeah, so it'll always just try and keep itself away from the obstacles that it's sensing. It's using LiDAR where it can. Obviously it's a more detailed obstacle avoidance. It might pick up some finer objects like your cables. And then out of the sides and the back it will use radar as well.
Okay, cool, that's perfect. So like I say, we're on site today, so we'll get some flying. We've got some nice areas that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to get with, say, a tripod mounted laser scanner, or even some of the handheld ones, and we've got our BLK2Go down here, so it'll be a nice little comparison to see what we can capture with that and what we can capture from ground level. But yeah, so we will be able to get this into some of those areas that we can't physically see from the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think of it as it does what your terrestrial laser scanner does. It just does it in areas that you can't get to.
Cool.
So it's nicely integrates with your laser scanning data as well that you've done from the ground. So with that walk that we're going to do with the BLK2Go, it all goes through Cyclone Register 360. The flights that you do with the BLK2FLY are also automatically registered based on the RTK position.
Okay. Yeah. So and then we can combine it all in to produce one point cloud. Cool, that's perfect. So let's put a battery in, set it up, and we'll go fly and see what we can capture.
Fantastic.
And then review the data afterwards.
Brilliant.
What we have here is Chris did a screen recording of the controller as he was flying the drone, so we can get a feel for what you see as you're flying the drone. So obviously here we're looking through the forward facing cameras. You can see the sort of joysticks on the left and the right of the screen. These are obviously for controlling the drone, its orientation, height and everything like that. So at this moment Chris is flying in manual mode, and he's just flicked over now from the sort of cameras to actually looking at the point cloud, looking at the data that the scanner is actually capturing as he's flying in real time. So it's a great little feature, so you can see where you're needing to infill data if it's starting to look light. And as you can see, as we fly around, the point cloud starts to build and develop, and you start to get a full picture of the site you're surveying. So as well as being able to sort of see the point cloud, you're also able to view all the information laid over Google Maps. So you'll be able to see in this shot the drone location, the return home location and the location of the controller. So you've always got a full picture of where everything is in relation to each other. And now we are looking at the sort of tap and shoot almost capture. So you can tap on the point cloud and the drone will automatically fly itself to that area, and obviously it's capturing data constantly, so infill, so you can keep sort of, rather than actually having to manually fly around. There, as you see, Chris tapped on the ridge line of the building and the drone's flown straight there. And it's capturing data as it goes, and you can sort of, very rapidly fill in areas of data. So this element is the sort of automated flight plan trajectory. So you start with the overview cameras and you pick the area that you want to be scanned. Now in this first scenario, because we picked a bit on the roof, it didn't like it. It likes a flat surface, so take two, and we just did the face of the building. And then it plots this trajectory where it's going to fly, and you just hit go and it does everything. As you can see here, the drone sort of taking it up to that start point, and now it's starting to zigzag down across the face of the building here, capturing all the elevation information as it's automatically flying. So this was also a very good example of the proximity sensors. So as we were coming back to this side, we were getting close to the trees, so it didn't like it. And then as we got lower, this parked car became an obstacle in its collision avoidance, and it didn't like it, so it adapted its flight path to avoid that. And eventually it got to the point where it went, I can't do this, so had to abort the flight path because it just physically couldn't do it because of the obstacles and the collision avoidance, which is a nice feature, that it's not going to just crash into something. So now this is the finished product, the actual scan data that comes out of it. So yeah, we'll have a quick sort of pan around, look at, see what was captured, and you can see it's nice looking data. It's certainly good enough to do some elevations from, and as you can see, there's in this between these two roofs, that would just be impossible to capture from the ground level. So it's great that we've been able to capture all that information. The other one that you can obviously see you've captured here is the top face of any window sills, which again, usually from ground level you don't have those because of shadowing, and you can see some of the outlines of some of the stuff that was on the roof. that, yeah, from ground when we were around the outside, had no idea that was there. So it was a nice little surprise when I was able to look at the scan data. And so here we've just hopped into the sort of panoramic photos. So again, you can, for looking at some of the detail and stuff, if you were drawing this up and you weren't 100% sure, you could jump in these pano images. So now, as we said, we had our BLK to go down there and a little comparison. Now, yes, okay, we could have done a few passes with the BLK and improved the quality of the data from this, because obviously we did multiple passes with the BLK to fly, but just sort of one walk past and back with the BLK to go. But you can see what wasn't picked up in terms of roof line and things like that from ground level. And again, like I say, you've got that shadowing from the windowsill. So it's yeah, it's a different angle to be scanning from with the BLK to fly. So there you go, that's the BLK to fly on site, and a look at the data and the sort of the comparison to the BLK to go, to give you a good nice insight into how the equipment works. I'd like to thank Lecia, Chris and Harry for bringing the BLK to fly down and letting us have a look and play with it. And before I go on to my sort of conclusions, my negatives and positives of the BLK to fly, I do just want to point out I wasn't actually physically flying the BLK to fly. Chris was doing that as he has a drone pilot's license. So that leads me actually nicely onto my first negative about the BLK to fly. It's over that 250 gram drone weight limit, so you are going to need a drone pilot's license to be able to fly this drone. So it's just another thing that you will have to factor into the purchase of this equipment, that you are going to have an element of training in there and a cost involved in that. It's not just buy the equipment, here we go, we can just go out and fly it anywhere. So that sort of leads me nicely on to the second negative of it. It's not a small drone. The size of it is quite a big drone. Just the sheer nature of it's got a scanner head on there. It's going to be a reasonable size bit of equipment. It's not like a DJI Mini or anything like that. So yeah, it's a reasonable sized drone. My third negative would be battery life. The batteries don't last for hours. When you consider what it's doing, it's scanning and it's also having to keep itself up in the air. It's sort of understandable why the battery life isn't extremely long on it. But you can cover a lot of ground quite quickly, so it's a swings and roundabouts. It all depends on the job that you're doing, and obviously you could invest in more batteries or take chargers down with you if you had a really big site that you were trying to cover. My fourth negative is the noise. It's not a quiet drone. Again, comes down to perhaps its size and stuff like that. So you are going to draw some attention to yourselves and get some inquisitive looks, because yeah, people are going to hear it up in the sky, flying around whatever building you're surveying. And then this comes on to my sort of final negative of the BLK to fly, is because it is a drone, you are going to have to comply with airspace laws, and there will be times and sites that are within restricted airspace, and you just physically cannot fly it in those spaces unless you are wanting to feel the wrath of the police, sort of thing. So again, it's another thing that we have to take into account with planning with a piece of equipment like this. So yeah, so they're my 5 negatives of the BLK to fly. So now let's move on and finish off on the positives for it. So yeah, my first positive is you can cover a lot of ground very quickly. It's a lot quicker than sort of perhaps doing something from a tripod mounted scanner, because again it can move as it's scanning, and it covers areas very quickly. Then the other really big positive of it is you can scan areas you just physically cannot get from a ground mounted scanner. So I've taken a few photos which I'll be dropping in now of the site we're at, where you can see the roofs, the way they intersect, and the nature of other buildings around it. You just would not be able to pick up detail in that area from a tripod mounted scanner or a ground mounted sort of bit of survey equipment, be it total station. If you physically can't see it, you can't measure it, whereas with the BLK2FLY, you can get into that position to pick up that data. So again, really big positive of the scanner. My third positive, as I see it is a scanner. It's not a drone taking photos and sort of doing photogrammetry. It's physically measuring with the scanner head. And so it's a point cloud as opposed to a point cloud produced from photogrammetry. The fourth feature that I really liked on it was the collision avoidance. It had that bubble of collision avoidance, and it was very good at, if anything came into that proximity, it changed its sort of course of flight, or it avoided those obstacles, which hopefully as a pilot and an on site, it will reduce any potential accidents. And my final really big positive with it is the sort of auto flight planning, that you can either put a ring fence around the elevation you want to scan. It auto works out a flight path and executes that flight path. And also the sort of tap to scan. You can tap on the point cloud where you feel you need a bit more data, and the drone will take itself there and pick up that information. So so there's some really nice features, and it's a really interesting bit of kit. So if you think we've missed anything on our pros and cons, sort of comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are on it, whether you think it's a good bit of kit or indifferent bit of kit. If you are enjoying these videos, if you could sort of like, follow, subscribe yourselves, or like it, and so you can keep up to date on the content and the different bits of equipment that Leica are producing and that we're reviewing, and that'd be great. And I'll leave a little card on another video that we've done a review, and that I think you guys might like if you've enjoyed this one. So thanks for watching, and catch you all soon.